Yes, it's exciting to be back with Dave, doing helping out with the preparation for the Whistler Half Marathon and all the different distances and everything. For years, I ran the training for the Whistler Half Marathon, from beginner, intermediate to advanced. We had a walking group. So this really is a race for, or even an event, I should say, for anyone. So at any ability. And it's great that they also have the kids events and everything else. So what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to go through, I'll do a little bit of, let you know a little bit about my background. And then we're going to alternate our weeks with doing a little bit of mental prep and then a little bit of training prep. So 1 week is going to be more focused on the mental side, and the other side, the other week is going to be working a little bit more on the performance, the physical stuff, and kind of looking at weeks where you should be in your training. And definitely what I would like to do is I want this to be educational for you, but I also appreciate that if you have questions, comments, concerns, whatever, you can either type them in, or if you know where your unmute button is, or you can put your little hand up, do your little whatever you call them, reactions, and or you can just unmute yourself and ask me. Okay, so I will go through doing the education. I'll open it up to discussion, and then we can go from there. Okay, so hopefully that works for you. And definitely feedback is so important. As a facilitator, coach, whatever, it always makes me better at what I do and what we can provide for you, because that is the biggest part of this, is that we want this to be more than just a physical experience for you, that you get to the race, you're doing everything on your own. We kind of want to build up our community for the Whistler Half Marathon through doing these seminars, and get some dialogue going, and be kind of have a little bit of support for each other, especially if you are training alone still, or whatever you're doing. Okay, so with that, I will kind of move into a little bit about me. I've been working up in, or was working up in Whistler for many years as a coach and personal trainer, and running the Whistler Half Marathon training. I have a background in massage therapy, did a lot of rehabilitation training after that, where I went into my own personal training. And then from doing all my work with athletes and that stuff, got really interested in what makes people tick, what motivates them. And that went back and did my master's in counseling psychology, and started to do some mental performance coaching. I don't call myself a mental performance consultant, because I have to have other training that I don't have, other courses that I don't have, but I am in the process of doing that. So just so you know, that's a little bit about me. Also an avid athlete myself, still doing ultra runs and Ironman and all the rest. So I kind of come from all different areas. So hopefully that will help. And so if you do have questions about either the athletic side, the training side, or we're looking at that mental performance side, we're working on that. Tonight's session is going to be a little bit more mental performance focused. And when we talk about mental performance, those can be looking at what are the qualities that you might need other than just training your muscles, other than getting out there and going for a run. So a lot of us think about, okay, well, got to put on my shoes, right? Some people struggle with doing that. That would be that motivation piece. That's that mental side of sport. It's also learning how to calm yourself if you get really anxious. Some people don't like to train in groups. They find that a little bit threatening or intimidating. So we work on things that looking at how do we manage our emotions or regulate our emotions, looking at strategies to do that. Goal setting is another part of mental performance coaching. Same with focusing and refocusing strategies, breathing, meditation, dealing with injury is a big one, and one that a lot of athletes really get stuck on. And if you're not an avid runner, it's pretty easy to maybe feel like you've got to up your miles too fast, and then you're into an injury, or you're wearing the wrong shoes, whatever it might be. All of these things can kind of compound, and then we're into an injury state, and it can really be devastating for some people. And people feel like they're kind of stuck. We see a lot of what I would call just kind of situational depression. So because of the situation, because you're injured, because you can't do what you want to do, all your friends are going, whatever it might be, it could be a hard thing to move through or to process. So we're gonna look at some strategies for that. I'm going to start off with the goal setting side of things. And if you are signed up for one of the distances, depending on what it is, you already have set yourself a goal. Maybe it was to register. Maybe your goal was, okay, I'm going to sign up for this. Maybe it is that you have a time goal. Maybe it's a completion goal. Those are what we'd call outcome goals. Those are kind of the final product of what you are aiming to do. What we know is that when athletes only focus on their outcome goal, their performance is actually suboptimal. It's not as good as it could be. And that's because you can get stuck in always looking ahead. It's kind of like you'll get halfway through your marathon and you're like, oh, well, I'm off my time goal. I'm not going to get it anyways. And you're not even close to the finish. You're only halfway, right? So a great example of this was when I was running with one of my friends at the Vancouver Marathon. And this is a lady who I was coaching, and we were running together, and we got to just a bit past halfway, and she said, I'm not going to make it around the seawall. And I said, well, we're not at the seawall, so don't worry about that. So one of those kind of taglines that we use is focus on where your feet are. Okay, so be where your feet are, right? If I'm only at 15K, then be at 15K. If you're at 1K, be at 1K. So that is a way to bring yourself back to the present. Outcome goals also can bring on a little bit of anxiety or anxious thoughts. We're kind of trying to predict the future. Nothing wrong with having outcome goals. They're really good. But if they're only focus, they can be, we can find other things that we can put in place. So we have two other goals that we're going to talk about, which one is going to be your performance goals. So this might be that when you're running and you have maybe a goal time that you're wanting to get, you're going to come back and you're going to look at, okay, what kind of kilometer repeats do I need to run in order to get there? Okay, I'm going to train those. Maybe I'm going to try and run a little bit faster. If I want to do 50 minutes for 10K, I've got to run 5-minute kilometers. Okay, so if I'm doing my kilometer repeats, or my 800 repeats, or my 400 repeats, whatever I might be doing, I'm going to start to break that down. And I'm going to go, okay, well, I'm going to try and run each of my kilometers at 4 minutes and 45 seconds. That's 15 seconds faster, right? So these are our performance goals. So performance goals are something that we are going to put into our training, and they're going to kind of be our guidelines. We're going to see how we're doing. We might test ourselves with them, or we might just be curious about it. And then the last one is what we call a process goal. So a process goal is something that you can focus on when you're trying to reach your outcome goal, doing your performance goals, and they help to bring you back to the present moment. I love to use keywords or focus on body parts. So my process goal, I always run like a football player. My shoulders are up here, great asthmatic, running up here. So mine is relax my shoulders. Sometimes it's lead with my knees. Sometimes it's light feet. These are little taglines, little cues I can give myself. And what it does is it takes me out of looking at the bigger picture, brings me back to the here and now, right? That same thing, be where your feet are. So all of those different goals. So if you haven't looked at some of your goals, you might want to start to say, okay, what's my outcome goal? I coach athletes, beginner athletes, intermediate, elite, whatever, doesn't matter. Even my beginner athletes, when I coach them for Ironman, we set goals, we set time goals. And the reason that we do that is to guide training. Okay. We guide training with that, meaning that my athletes, they're like, well, I just want to finish. Okay, well, let's just kind of look at what's realistic for you. Are you walking the marathon? Is that going to be a 5 or 6 hour marathon? Okay, well, then let's work backwards from there. What do we have to do for your bike? What do we have to do to get you, under whatever we have, that's 17 hours. So it's good to have these goals, even if it's a little bit anxiety producing or whatever, because it's going to help guide your training. So that's part of the goals. Okay. Are there any questions about that anybody has? I'm hot in my house.
All good.
All good? Okay. Okay. So looking at your goals, that's going to be our first thing we're going to do. All right. Some other areas that when we look at mental performance strategies, I talked about focusing and refocusing. Focusing and refocusing is something that when we're in, and these are components that when little things happen, so it's the unexpected things that are happening that we're going to have to learn how to manage. And that takes practice. All of your mental skills, just like what you would do with your training, you need to practice them. Okay, they need to be rehearsed. When we rehearse them in training, it means that when we get into a situation in our races, that we have a tool and it's a go-to. We've practiced it. We know it works. With my athletes that I work with, we often take a strategy and we say, let's try this. We want to make sure that it's something that resonates with the athlete, that they're comfortable accessing, they're comfortable doing, and they're like, okay, this works, great. Then we start to work with that. Some athletes, they try things and they're like, no, that didn't work. It's even within my counseling practice, strategies that we know that are very effective for dealing with, let's say, depression, gratitude journals and everything. And I have tons of people that will just be like, nope, I'm not a writer. I'm not writing. It doesn't work for me. Okay. So we've got to look at other things. So this is a process where you guys get to try out some things. Okay. And I encourage you to try them. It's really important that you have something, because there's always little things that happen, especially if it's the injury, if it's you get to the aid station, you're so thirsty and they've run out of water, they've run out of ice, whatever it might be. How are you managing that? How are you moving forward? With some of my athletes with triathlon and that, they're like, what if it's raining? I'm like, what if it's raining? Okay, what are you going to do? Are you not going to race? Are you going to stop? No, you're going to keep going. Sometimes we have to look at those, the things that start to kind of make you anxious, and look at whether they're a controllable. Can you control the weather? Can any of us control the weather? No, we just have to prepare for it. So look at those things as, when you are starting to work with some of these tools, or looking at things that are bothering you or that might get in the way, look at whether you can control them. And if you can't control them, then we need to try and find that way to kind of let go of just our own emotions around it. So that's the other thing. Okay. So our focusing and refocusing, I love, again, to have either keywords or breath is probably my favorite go-to, and seems to work for a lot of athletes. I've worked with different team sports too. Some of my soccer and volleyball. Soccer, the guys on the sidelines might do some movement with their feet. They might hold the ball. They might do a couple of these before they're actually going to throw the ball back in. There's a movement that they do. Okay. So looking at those kind of things. And I have to say, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, because one of the biggest things I say with all of this is it all starts with self-awareness. When we're thinking about, well, what kind of athlete am I? What are my triggers? What works for me? What doesn't work for me? When do I like to train? You kind of get to go on, depending on whether you're a new athlete or an experienced athlete. I've been an athlete for years, and I'm still discovering things. I'm still trying new strategies, things to help me manage better, to help me stay focused. So start to learn who you are as an athlete. Also, just having that awareness around what are your triggers? What gets you upset? What don't you like? What do you like? Learning about, why did you sign up for the race? What is it about this race that you want to do? Is it that you've run it before and you want to get a better time? Is it that you've never been? Maybe you love running in the trails and being in nature. And I hear you. I love it too. So especially up in Whistler and Lost Lake, amazing, beautiful. So start to just get to know yourself and be curious. That's the other thing, is that when we look at increasing our awareness as an athlete, if you can come from a lens of curiosity rather than criticism, that's huge. So, I wonder why I did that. Well, who knows, right? You can do something else. If you start to get down on yourself because you did something, that is not going to help you get better. You're just going to feel a little bit less. And so, as I say, adopt that lens of curiosity about yourself as you start this process. I think we are 11 weeks out from this race, which is really exciting, from this event. I'll stop calling it a race. Some people say, it's not a race, but from this event. So yeah. So take that. That's a really big part of helping you find different strategies. Okay. So the other thing is a visualization, and I'm going to go into a little bit more depth of all of these. Right now, tonight is just a bit more of an overview about what might work. And then we will go into a little bit more of the specifics. So visualization is the other component too. And I'm not sure if any of you guys have used that. Visualization is an amazing tool, and some of the recent podcasts that I've listened to on neuroscience, they've actually said that visual focus precedes mental focus. So if we can start to focus, start to get our visual focus happening for us, that and stay there even when it gets uncomfortable or whatever, our brains will come online with that a little bit more to make it more effective. And if you're interested in listening or learning more about that, I highly recommend you go to the Huberman Lab. Google Huberman Lab. I'm going to put into the chat right now. Huberman Lab podcast. This guy is a neuroscientist, and he's amazing, the podcast. So if you're a real sciencey person, it's very a lot of medical terminology. So if you're not really into that, it might be a little bit much, but he's got some great stuff, and he's got the science to back it all up. So he really explains to you why something will work better than something else. This guy, Andrew Huberman, he looks at everything from your breathing, how to maximize sleep, how to work with ADHD, increase your motivation, work on your fears. And he does it all from looking at what's happening in your brain when all of these things are happening. And he gives you strategies. So it's a fantastic listen. They're long podcasts. So oftentimes I will sit on my trainer, get a good 2-hour ride in while I listen to one of his things, but definitely worthwhile. So looking at that. So that visualization, we can use visualization in a bunch of different ways. One is we can use it to help us calm. And one of those strategies is like thinking of either a calm place, and that's to help relax the body. So we can either make something that's an imaginary place. Imagine that. You can think about even a place where you've been that you really, there's beautiful memories around it, and we can use that as a visualization in order to help ground us, calm us, whatever we want to do. We can also use it to enhance performance. So we can use that visualization, knowing the course, knowing the hills, knowing the corners. If you've been up in Whistler and you've ever watched the guys doing luge, you will see them up in the box before they're going, and they're sitting there with their eyes closed, and they know every single corner, and their bodies are moving to it. They are so into it, everything, every part of it, right? So we can use that visualization to enhance performance. We can also use visualization to help us heal. So what they've done studies where they've placed electrodes on people's muscles and had them sit and visualize contracting the muscle without actually moving it. And it has been shown on the electrodes that it sends out a signal to that muscle. So if you're injured, you can imagine blood flow going into that area of your body. You can imagine that muscle contracting when you're visualizing yourself actually doing your sport, right? What do you want your body to look like when you're running? So this is a funny little story I'll share with you. So I've done a few Ironman, and usually when I'm running my Ironman, I'm out there and I might be tired, but I always think, oh, my feet are nice and light. Oh, I'm standing tall. And of course, somebody's taking photos of you, right? So when I get to the end of my race and I check out my photos, both feet are on the ground. My knees are totally collapsed and my body's hunched over. But I don't feel any of that because I'm visualizing myself very nice and tall and light and gazelle-like. No, it's really not happening. So, but hey, I can play tricks on myself and that keeps me going. That lightness that I have. So visualization is such a huge skill and tool, and we can all access it. I love watching videos too of other runners. So even by watching, we have something inside called mirror neurons inside our brain. So when we watch somebody doing something, that actually stimulates our neurons in our brain. And so you can learn that way. And, so even if you're training, you can help yourself by watching people that are really proficient runners. What does that look like? Tap into that. One of the things we do know with visualization, if you can, tap into your senses. So when I get some of my Ironman athletes to go through, and we kind of go through the whole swim, bike, run, and then going through the finish line. And when they get to the finish line, when their eyes closed and they're just sitting there, I want them to focus on, what are they hearing? What do they smell? What do they feel? Not only within their body, what do they feel from outside? What are they seeing with their eyes? Okay. So we focus on all of that. There might even be a taste associated. Hopefully it's not a power gel or something, because it was pretty disgusting, but I digress. So tap into all of your senses. Really, that's a huge component with visualization in order to make it more effective. Tapping into the senses we can also do when we're calming. So you can use it for your calming, you can use it for your stimulation. We actually do it a lot for kids. We do a thing called, not even kids, well, my last work was with kids, so I would use it with kids. We call it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And it is a way, again, to bring you back if you're getting escalated, if you're finding you're getting overwhelmed or whatever. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 works with the senses. It's focused on 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. And by the time you've gone through that, by the time we get to hearing, so by the time we've gotten to number 3, we've already brought somebody back down. So that's the other thing to look at. Okay. So combining the senses. So we've got goal setting, some focusing and refocusing strategies. So focusing, how do you get focused for your race? And I'm going to do a little bit more on that one in a later podcast or a later seminar. And then we have the visualization and working with, can you rate the 5? Yes, I will. I will rate the 5. Yeah. And then working with our senses. Last one we're going to discuss today is breathing. Okay. Breathing is huge. There are so many online strategies now focusing on breath. Breath can be used to both elevate. So if we find that we're low energy and we need to stimulate, so this is a classic to use for when you might wake up in the morning and I'm unmotivated. I don't want to put on my shoes. I don't want to go for a run, whatever. You can actually do breath work to help stimulate your body. I don't know if you've heard of Wim Hof breathing, but Wim Hof breathing, he has a little 11-minute set that he does breath work with. You can follow along with that to try it and see if it helps you. I would suggest that if you do have any kind of medical issues where you shouldn't be doing labored breathing or any kind of breath work or holding your breath, that might not be the best, but you can modify it. Okay. So I will type that one in, and I'm going to type out the other one. So Wim Hof breathing, and he has an 11-minute YouTube. So check out that one. And again, when we do the Wim Hof breathing, that's more to stimulate our nervous system. All right. So he does deep breaths, 30 deep breaths, and then he holds his breath. He does a minute hold and then 2.5 holds. So 30 breaths, minute hold, 30 breaths, minute and a half hold, 30 breaths, minute and a half hold. If you can't hold for the minute and a half, you take a breath when you need to, and then you go back to holding, and it's all guided. So again, that is going to elevate the nervous system. Holding the breath during that time puts the body into a little bit of discomfort. So for some people, that's good. We want to be in that discomfort. Okay. It's when we're training, we're going to have discomfort at some point. If we're trying to push ourselves, there might be discomfort. Okay. There is a difference between discomfort and pain, which is another session, but there is a difference. So we can have a little bit of that discomfort. So that's going to help you there. The other thing we can do is more of a calming breath. And this is another one that the Huberman lab, Andrew Huberman, he has discovered that there's something called a physiological sigh. A physiological sigh is when there are 2 inhales to 1 slow exhale. And they found that that is the best thing to calm the nervous system. So for somebody that gets very anxious, that would be the breath that you would want to do. Just even working with your breath. If you don't know how you breathe, I would definitely start to have hand on your chest, hand on your belly. Start to see, well, where do I breathe? Am I chest breather? Is it everything in my chest? Is it only my belly? Is there absolutely no movement? When you breathe, your diaphragm, right here, right? Our diaphragm is almost like a billows, and it pumps up and down. There should be expansion in the rib cage and coming together. Some people don't have that. We also know that proper breath work is needed to contract our core properly. Many people breathe, they do what we'd call backwards breathing. When they inhale, everything sucks in, okay? And when they exhale, everything pushes out. And we actually want it different. When we take an inhale, we want to think of our lungs as balloons. And when we do that inhale, the lungs are going to expand. We want to feel the body expand. And when we exhale, we can use our abdominals and everything to push and force that air up and out. So, have a little, do a little science experiment. If you don't know how you breathe, start to learn how you breathe. What kind of breath pattern do you have? I often find that running only with your ear pods in, never listening to how you breathe when you're actually running, I would say go for a couple runs where it's you're not listening to music, but you're starting to get in tune with your own body. I think it's really important. And it will help you understand, oh my gosh, do I make that much noise when I breathe? You know, we're dying out there. So just, you know, being curious about that, learning, as I say, about how you breathe, and then learning to practice functional breathing. Okay, the core will not fire if every time you exhale, everything pushes out. The core can't fire like that. It fires when everything pulls in on the exhale. So looking at that for some of your retraining, and again, lots of videos out there. Guided meditation is a great one. Some people don't like to sit and breathe. I sometimes suggest that when people, if they're walking to work, when they stop at the stop walk, waiting for their light, great, that's your cue. Take a breath. So we can add in those kind of things. Make it simple for you. Any of your strategies you're using, make it simple. With the visualization, sometimes I combine that with the breath also. So it's that inhale, and I can imagine what it looks like, maybe what it feels like when the air passes through my nostrils. I can imagine my lungs expanding. And then as I'm doing that exhale, I can use those abdominals. I can feel my abdominals, but I can also feel the air coming out. And then I can imagine everything getting small. Add a color. There's so many things we can do. And all of this, again, is bringing this awareness about your body. You're practicing a skill. And as I say, you're going to have it. If you're go out too hard on a run, and especially in a race, it's really easy to get caught up with everything. And so you're starting off the run and you're running and you're chasing down somebody. And you might get to the point where your breathing is out of control. It's like, oh my gosh, right? And then you're starting to escalate your heart rate. If you're only breathing out of your mouth, that's when people have like their little anxiety attacks, right? They're only breathing through the mouth. We know that stimulates the nervous system when you're only doing that. How do you come back? You can take those inhales through the nose. You can take those couple breaths, bring the nervous system down, get yourself under control, move forward. So breathing is a really big thing. And during some of our other Zoom sessions, I would like to put in some practical stuff that we do. So we're all going to be practicing the stuff together. If you want, you can turn on your cameras. If we have rules for that, okay? That you we'll talk about those, but yeah, so that we can do some practicing around this stuff. As I say, I think it's important that you're not only practicing your physical, but that you're practicing your mental. And do it with even putting your shoes on. Like when you're going out for your run and putting your shoes on, take a breath. Have a cue word. Maybe pick a performance goal, right? Before you're going out and doing the run. What am I going to focus on today? I recently did a trail run race, and I practiced so many things. I was out there for a long time, let's just say that. But I had the opportunity to practice a lot of things. As I've gotten older, what I've noticed is that my agility has really gone down. And so my ability to move my feet fast is like not there. So when I was doing a trail run, it was over on the North Shore, lots of roots, rocks, whatever. And I was so slow going down the hills. It was technical. And I just thought, practice your feet, practice your feet. And I kept on saying that to myself. And as I did, I wasn't getting critical. I kept myself in a positive frame. I kept myself focused on what I was doing. Because you know what happens in trail running when you start to think of something else, you're going to land flat in your face all the time. It's guaranteed. But it was an opportunity, and I kind of got into it, and I was like, oh, my smile started to come back on my face, and it just gave me it's just like, no, you want to improve. That's why I'm here. I want to try and get this going. And that for me worked as a great strategy. So we can always find things that we can work on. The other one that I used was that before I went in the race, I've been living up north for a year and a half. I had 2.5 kilometers of road to run back and forth on. And that's where I would do like all my half marathon training. And this was a long trail run. And so I was kind of taking it as a training day, and kind of in order to protect my ego, because it's kind of big and it sits on my shoulder. In order to protect my ego, you know, I was like, oh, well, I'm doing this race, taking it very lightly. And as I got in there after 2 hours of running, I was like, no, it's race. And I shifted that again, turned off my critical kind of like, oh, you suck, turned that off and said, no, it's race. And the minute that I said, okay, it's a race, there was, I didn't want to stop. I was kind of like, okay, no, keep on going. You can do it. So there was a lot more positives that were happening. So I really challenge you that throughout your 11 weeks, starting today, tonight, pick one thing that you might be able to work on this week. And let's focus this week. Pick one thing, one kind of mental performance strategy, skill, something that you can practice during your training. Okay. So, and if you'd like to share, you're welcome to unmute yourself and share, or write it in the chat box. But just come up with one thing that you might try, or be aware that you have them. And the next time something gets tough or doesn't go right, or it's pouring rain and your long run is scheduled for that day, what are you going to do? How are you going to manage it? All of these things are going to help you. They're going to make you stronger. And again, if you bring the awareness to it, like, hey, you know what? I really didn't want to run today, but I thought, you know, maybe you're thinking, well, there's a lot of people that can't run, that don't have this as a choice. I mean, look around the world right now, what's happening. Wow. Yeah, you can put on your shoes and go outside and run. Maybe it's a time to be grateful. Maybe that's your strategy that you're using. Excellent. Maybe it's that you're going to be journaling about it. You're going to be journaling about your next 11 weeks. What do those look like for you? So I encourage you that each week, pick a goal, pick one thing. So if this week we're working on a mental performance, next week when we come, we're going to talk a bit more about your training. What's that looking like? And we're going to go over some different strategies for that. Maybe we're going to talk about where you want to be with your training, what would be good. Maybe you're not going to be there. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of anxiety producing, you know, and what kind of strategies are you going to have for that? I'm going to write down the 5 things when I talked about the 5. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That was, somebody asked me about that in the chat box. So I'm just going to write it in here. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 was about your senses. And that was looking at 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 you can taste. Okay. So again, if you got kids, great strategy to use. And we do have the kids run happening. So maybe you're going to be doing a family run, maybe you're going to do a kids run. That's a great thing that when kids get really anxious, that you can come down to that. And again, as I say, sometimes I just do the 3, 2, 1 or the 5, 4, 3, because as I say, the minute that you get to the hearing, everything stops. Kids love to listen. I can get a whole classroom to be quiet doing that one. So yeah, I'm going to stop there chatting. I am a chatty Cathy, and I'm just going to open it up to you guys. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about what we've just talked about, you're welcome to turn your videos on. You're welcome to unmute yourself, or welcome to write anything in the chat box. So I'll just hang out for a little bit. Just see if you guys have anything.
Hi, Christine, it's Megs.
Hi.
I think you remember me. I will turn
I
on the
do.
video because I'm
Yeah.
in the back right now and it's probably not the best.
Good. Yes, we do. Yes.
Epsom salt bath. Yeah, I don't know if anybody is experiencing that, but every time it's like raining and cold for me and I finish my run, I'm warm the whole time. But the second I finish, if I'm not close to my car or I'm like, okay, I need to walk, I turn into like massive white and I'm freezing. So is there anything that you can give tips about to deal with that? It's very difficult for me to manage and it takes me forever to warm up once it gets to that point.
Yeah. Mags, I have the same thing. And my thing is that I always finish my run in my car and I am changing out of my clothes in my car all the time. I cannot leave my clothes on. I cannot have one bit of that wet, cold clothing next to my body when I finish, or exactly the same. I'm white, my hands go white, I'm chilled to the bone, and I cannot get rid of that. So it's if you can plan that you finish your run at your car. And I used to do most of my training runs in the winter. I would go down to Squamish, living in Whistler, go down to Squamish. There wasn't anything open, and I would have everything in my car. And so I would literally be changing in my car. I'd sit in my car, heat on. You can have a hot tea waiting for you. So a hot beverage too is a great thing. Hot shots too. I would run with hot shots always in my winter mitts. When I was finished my run, my hot shots would actually go inside my clothing on my body, and that would help me too. So those are some strategies that I found that worked for me, but it was get those clothes off immediately after, like immediately getting into the car. I wouldn't even stretch. I would just go, okay, this has got to come off. It couldn't get any cold. Always have a spare hat after. So release tons of heat from our head. So when you are really cold, always have that hat on or a towel that you're wrapping around your head. I hope that helps, or something to try.
Yeah, no, it does. And you're right. Like even I left my bra on this week and I'm like, oh, I have everything. And it didn't work. I stopped on the side of the road and I stripped down in my car. People must think I was crazy. But yeah, no, this is something that I'm scared about. If you do a race, example, you do a half and like it's raining, it's cold, whatever, and then you happen to have to walk a section.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'll bring some hot shot in my vest or something, like maybe to keep me warm. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it's really hard. And especially what you're saying about at the end of the race. Yes, if you can have somebody meet you at the end of the race, if it is a rainy, cold day, have them meet you there with dry gear and get them to help you change. That is one thing. Sometimes the first aid tents will have those emergency blankets. And I would say if you know that your temperature just drops, get one of those emergency blankets or have one with you. You can get the really small ones and you could just put them in your back of your pocket so that after the race, if it's blowing cold, you're putting that on. So yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Okay, well, I will ask another question. All this session that you're doing, because I thought it was the same thing every week, but it's not.
No.
Okay, and if we miss one, is there any way we can get the recording?
Yeah. I'm recording all the sessions and I'm going to send them off to Dave. Dave will have them. And I believe he is going to post them on the website, but I will confirm that. But yes, all the sessions are recorded. And so you can come back and get them.
Perfect. Thank you. I can keep asking questions, but I let people go.
There you go. Yeah. What a great session. Oh, well, thank you. Thanks, Jules. Appreciate that. Yeah, so we're going to be doing our sessions on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. As I said, next week, we're going to be looking a bit more at training. We might not go the full hour. I've allotted an hour of time. Sometimes we'll do the full hour. Sometimes we won't. We'll cut a little bit short. Again, it will be open to discussion, that stuff. As I say, next week, we're going to look at training. We're going to go through the weeks, looking at maybe some milestones of, depending on what distance you are doing, where you might want to be for those. What kind of training you need underneath you. And I will say right now that it's tough in the winter. It's tough in Whistler to run. I haven't been up for a while, but I think you guys did have some snow, and treadmill, elliptical, stationary bike, whatever you need to do, or just out walking in the snow. I like to think a lot of training is time on your feet. And again, it's a great way to start to work this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up there. And again, feedback or anything, please reach out. I think Dave said info@whistlerhalfmarathon.com. I think so. I'll make sure I have that for next time. So yeah, I know I say and those things too much, so you can put that in too, because it's a great reminder. But yeah, I hope you guys have something that you can take away from tonight. And again, write yourself out that one thing that you can work on, whether it's taking that deep breath, working on some visualization, checking out Wim Hof, Huberman Lab, whatever it might be. Oh, the other one, if you struggle with mindset, how to get in the right mindset, or what is the right mindset or anything, I'm going to write down this one, because this was a great podcast that I listened to the other day, Mastering Mindset. So this is Rich Roll's podcast, and Rich Roll podcast. And he has one on mastering mindset. And the wonderful thing about this is that he interviews a whole pile of different athletes from different sports, interviews them, talks about their mindsets. Very interesting to listen to other athletes, very accomplished athletes, what they use, how they get through the tough times. A lot of them have overcome adversity. He also has Andrew Huberman on there. So he's got the neuroscientist on there. He's got another psychologist on there. And he's got a guy, a business guy, mastering mindset. So I love learning about that stuff. And I always think it's interesting. And I'm always very curious about, as I say, what makes myself tick and what makes others tick. So I hope you have enjoyed tonight. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me. And I look forward to seeing you guys, or seeing your names at least. I look forward to seeing your names next week. Okay. Any questions? Well, I'll put my email up here too. If you want to ask me anything that you might not want to do with everybody here, there you go, Christine at seatoskymultisport.com. Feel free to reach out to me. Happy to help you and to make this a fun and enjoyable experience and a learning experience. Okay. Take care, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, YouTube.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.